At the end of the last video, we still had some issues with the legacy board that we were going to fix offline, so we'll go over those. The last videos of the cabinet and gameplay were kind of crappy, so in keeping consistent, I'll try to make this one crappy as well. I brought the cabinet downstairs by myself, so to reduce weight, I took everything apart. I'll show you a recap of those remaining board fixes first. Then we'll put the cabinet back together. When we left it last, after missing the paddle, the ball ended up in the top area instead of stopping the game and waiting for the next serve. They detect the ball missing the paddle using these two gates, basically when it runs into H-Sync. On the analyzer you can see this Henry II dog AND gate is not ANDing. I cut pin 11 to assure the downstream input was not holding this line down. Then I tacked in one of the unused gates in Charlie 1 to verify a fix. This is working correctly. The game now stops when you miss the ball. I'll replace this 7408 in Henry II. So that works fine, but there's another problem. Now when you miss the ball, the bricks get reset. I suppose we could just consider that a difficulty feature. On the analyzer, we can see that this not set bricks line goes low, which pulls up the data in pin and writes all ones into the brick RAM. This should only happen on a game start or when the first wall is complete and the second wall is put up. Not set bricks is generated by the Dog 3 Baker flip-flop. On the analyzer you can see that the gate is set when not serve weight drops. With these flip-flops, changes should only happen on the rise of the clock or when the set or clear line goes low. Even if the clock was rising, the data pin is held low, so a normal clock would set the output low. Let's replace her. That looks pretty good. Bricks stay put after you miss the ball. I also replaced those jumpers we had put in Mary 2 with an actual 7483 so we could test cocktail mode. I set the cabinet type switch to cocktail, and when player 2 is up, the screen is flipped. We'll go over this flip circuitry later, but it looks like everything is working okay for now. In summary, she required 3 chip replacements, the low order vertical counter in Nancy 1, one of the AND gates was bad in Henry 2, and one of the flip-flops was bad in Dog 4. I also had replaced Mary 1 and Mary 2 while heading down the wrong trail, but they were probably okay. We also replaced the LM323 with this PSU5, changed out this filter capacitor, and replace these 2 rectifiers. I ran her on the bench for about a week, so she looks okay for now. Let's put this cabinet back together and test her out. I do have to confess that I am not a game or arcade aficionado. I just think Breakout has an interesting story and fun circuitry. And I'm not trying to make this pristine, I just want to clean it up a bit. I removed the broken feet and screwed it to this roller board so I can easily move it around. I'll replace those feet later. The monitor is attached to this wooden fixture. In the first part we said that the monitor is monochrome and they use colored strips. You can clearly see those here. And lots of burn-in. While that monitor was out, I took the opportunity to recap it. I made this simple fixture so I wouldn't have to dismount the tube from the plywood. I also mounted an EMI filtered power jack and RNC jacks and brought everything out through a connector. I whipped up this super high-tech multi-stage discharge tool using an old screwdriver head, a short paint roller extension, and a couple of 47K 2-watt wire-wound resistors. I didn't have anything higher wattage laying around, so hopefully they'll survive. The anode covers on these monitors are unusually stiff, so the flat blade screwdriver head helps. You start out with a ground jumper here, then move to the middle, and finally direct. Hope I never have to use this tool again, but you definitely need to discharge the tube before working on anything. She's a giant capacitor and will smack you hard. You really have to be careful with this high voltage diode because it's easy to break. You can carefully wedge it out with a pair of needle nose, and I used a Velcro strap to hold everything down. The chassis comes off with 4 screws, and I mounted it to a couple pieces of wood so I can easily work on the bottom without putting pressure on anything topside. I'm using 2 kits from arcadeshop.com. One of the old cans was a multi-cap. This replacement has all 4 mounted on a nice board. The other kit has high-quality replacements for 9 of the other electrolytics. The kit actually has 10 capacitors to give you both axial and radial caps for C50. No idea why. The kit does not come with a replacement for this big C47 can, but I just happen to have a spare 4700 mic at 50 volts that I'll use. Perhaps they meant to supply C47 instead of 2 C50s. Big size difference. Pretty amazing how small the modern caps are. My old man, bless his soul, worked for Zenith for nearly 25 years managing a repair division. This stuff was second nature to him. Just glad he's here helping me out in spirit. After power on, we'll adjust the regulator to 73 volts, then align everything else. I'll hook it up to a breakout board and set it up as best as possible before putting it back in the cabinet. First thing we'll do is slide the monitor assembly back in. I added this brace to keep it from sagging. The front bezel must be removed for tube clearance while moving this in or out. There are guides here, and a screw on each side keeps it in place. Next, we'll put the monitor bezel and front panel back. I switched out the potentiometer with the spare found in the bottom of the cabinet because it was super sticky. It's the same part number, but definitely not field replaceable. I needed to cut down and key the shaft. Remind me not to do that again. The bezel has 3 parts: a plastic screen shroud, a smoky piece of 1/4-inch plexiglass, and a clear piece of 1/4-inch plexiglass with graphics printed on the back side. You can see here where players park their cigarettes. The plastics slip under a lip in the back. The control panel fits into this slot in the front and is held in place by 2 carriage bolts and wing nuts. Some of this was pretty rusted out, so I'm replacing fasteners as necessary. They use carriage bolts for any user-accessible area for security. I'm not doing anything special with the coin panel. There's a bayonet base incandescent lamp here. Could replace with an LED, but I'm just going to leave it alone. More carriage bolts with regular nuts. Here is the transformer tray assembly. You'll find it on page 33 of the manual. I took everything off, cleaned it up, and painted it. I was originally just going to replace the EMI filter and power cord, but I decided to use this IEC320 EMI filter with a C14 socket. It also has a built-in power switch and fuse, so I'm going to remove the exposed fuse here, and the cabinet safety switch. I'll keep this in case someone wants to reinstall it later. With the C14 socket, the power cord can be easily switched out as needed. The tray sits on side rails and secures with these 2 wood screws. Everything has a connector, so they make it pretty easy to work on. This set of wires runs up to the marquee box and speaker. I'm not really liking the 110 volts AC in the same bundle as the speaker wire, but the whole thing is like that. Let's connect the monitor, the coin box, and the control panel. This marquee slide-in assembly also holds the speaker. They had old school incandescent lamps on ceramic bases, but the diagram shows fluorescent. I'm going to take these off, paint the whole light box here white, and install an LED strip light, reusing the same connector. That'll run cooler and look better. When I first took this off, I got a nice surprise. I expected a rat's nest, but not literally. All of this insulation was brought here by little guys, and I only found one dead Mickey. Let's hook up the speaker wires and plug the light strip into the wiring harness. This assembly slides in and secures with 2 screws into captive T-nuts. The marquee is also 1/4-inch plexiglass with graphics painted on the back side. The bottom rail attaches with carriage bolts and wing nuts. We then slide in the marquee. The top rail attaches from the top with hex head stove bolts into captive T-nuts. Let's slide that card cage back in, securing it to the side with 1 screw. I am going to ground this thing. I replaced this panel with plywood. Old one was a bit crappy. I'll replace some other stuff on the back here later. Fire in the hole. I made some monitor adjustments, and I think we finally have a winner. I'll shut up now and let you enjoy some 70s arcade gaming. Thanks for watching.
You